Hello, hello, hello. My name is Coach Don Allen, and I am the CEO of Stay Sexy Wellness. How is everybody doing this evening? On this Wednesday, September, no, I keep saying September. Why is it September? On this Wednesday, February, February 18th. How's everybody doing today? Just checking in and seeing everybody is here today. All right. Trying to see if Instagram world is here. All righty. All right. So today I want to welcome you to the Dawn Allen podcast, sponsored by Stay Sexy Wellness, as we celebrate Black History Month 2025. I'm your host, Coach Dawn Allen, and I'll present every day a Black History moment. And we're going to talk about the heroes, the heroines, the doctors, the scientists, the inventors, the entertainers, the athletes, the all the people in our society, all Black Americans that has contributed to our society, to our culture, and the world. I am so excited. So many interesting facts that I want to tell you about today. Not today, but tell you about the month. And today is no exception. I'm just so excited about our people, how we have great adventures. We just have so much power that sometimes we just don't know how fabulous we are. We are definitely fabulous. So, as I bring you value, please drop a V, and if you can relate, please drop a R. I would really, really appreciate it if you can do these things for me this evening. So, with further ado, I would like to introduce you to my subject matter tonight. And I'm going to talk to you about a slave named Onesimus, okay? And how he saved generations from smallpox, okay? So, here we go. The news was terrifying to the colonists in Massachusetts. Smallpox had made it to Boston and it was spreading rapidly. The first victims, the passengers were on a ship from the Caribbean. And I'm not saying that it started in the Caribbean, I'm just saying that it said that the first victims were on the ship that came from the Caribbeans. And what they did is they put them in a house and they identified them with a red flag. And the red flag said, God have mercy on this house. Right? So meanwhile, hundreds of residents they fled, right? Because they didn't want to be exposed to this terrible, terrible disease. So and it was spreading like wildflower. And smallpox patients, well, they experienced fevers, they were fatigued, they had this nasty, crusty rash that could leave disfiguring scars up to 30% on the body. And they also can die. So those were not conditions anybody wanted. So so that's how it started with an epidemic. And now we're going to talk about how Mr. I mean, sorry, Onesimus came in the picture. So smallpox, like I said, was one of the era's deadliest afflictions and of this time. They said few diseases at this time were universal or fatal. So this was noted by Susan Pryor. She said that the colonists saw its effect not only amongst themselves, amongst their own countrymen, but also among the Native American Indians, to whom they introduced the disease too, and smallpox destroyed Native communities that with no immunity were unable to fight off the viruses. So that means they killed the Indians as well, right? So another time, it also said that the smallpox also, it said also, not just only, but also was emptied through the colony on slave ships. Now the slaves, The enslaved people were packed, into these unsanitary quarters, and they passed the disease along to one another. So eventually, it said the colonists, once they got to their destination, then it spread to the colonists wherever they were at. So one of these destinations was Massachusetts, and Massachusetts was a very early center of slave trade. Okay, so the first enslaved people had arrived in Massachusetts in 1638, and by 1700 there were about 1,000 enslaved people who lived in the colony of Boston. So in 1706, an enslaved West African man was purchased for a prominent Puritan minister named Mr. Cotton Mather, and he was purchased by his congregation. So Mather gave him the name of Onesimus, and Onesimus was a name that came from the Bible. Onesimus was a slave that he escaped his master, went to Rome, and he was taught by Paul, and he embraced the gospel. Paul wrote a letter to to his master, and he wanted him to um, release him, so he could, because he was useful in with Paul and learning the gospel. Anyway, so he named him Onesimus, okay, from the Bible, which meant useful. So at that time, the people who had slaves, they taught them, or they wanted to educate them. They wanted to educate them and convert them to Christianity. So even though they wanted to convert them, they still felt that they didn't really trust them. They said they had some devilish rights. They had devilish rights, and they may rebel. But one day, one day in 1716, Abenaeus told him something. He told Martha something that he did believe. And he didn't trust him, but this thing he really tried. He believed this time what he had said, and that um, Onesimus told him that he knew how to prevent smallpox. I'll say it one more time. That he knew how to prevent smallpox. This enslaved man from West Africa. Okay, so he listened. Okay, he listened to what he had to say then. So he told him that he had smallpox at one time, and then he didn't. So he said he had undergone in an operation which had given him something of smallpox and would forever preserve him from it. And whoever had the courage to use it was forever free of the fear of this contagion. Hmm. So the operation that he had referred to consisted of you rubbing pus from one infected person to another wound on the arm, and this was done in a controlled manner and undergoing the supervision of the physician. So the symptoms from would be milder, but still conferred immunity. So once the infected material was introduced into the body, the person who underwent the procedure was inoculated against smallpox. So that was kind of the pre-inoculation. Wasn't with the needle, but basically you spread the wound, open it up, like I said, and put the pus in. Eventually, I guess you um, got the vac. You got undergoing some immune response. So this and it protected you from the disease. So Matthew was fascinated, right? So he wanted to verify the story. So what he did, he heard, he learned this thing, he learned the same information from other slaves, and then he also found out that they used the same practice in Turkey and in China. So Matthew then became an evangelist for inoculation. He said also known as variolation. So, and he wanted to spread the word all around Massachusetts so they can, with the hopes to prevent pox. But then the people wasn't having it. The colonists wasn't having it. They did not believe. They didn't trust. They did not trust um, black people. They didn't trust them. They didn't trust slaves. So the same prejudice that caused him to distrust his servant made other white colonists reluctant to undergo a medical procedure developed by or for black people. So Mather was kind of discouraged. He was also ridiculed, and other preachers argued that it was against God's will to expose his creatures to dangerous diseases. So he was ridiculed. So and Onesimus told him in 1716, right, about how to how he got rid of smallpox. In 1716, remember that date. Now in 1721, 5 years later, Mather he found a physician that would support the technique 5 years later. Okay. So anyway, the doctor was named Dr. Zabdel Bolston. So he got the chance to test the power of the inoculation because that year a smallpox epidemic spread from a ship to Boston, sickening about half of the city. So, doctor, he sprang into action. He inoculated his son and his enslaved workers against the disease. Then he began inoculating other Bostonians of 242 people that he inoculated. Only 6 died. So it's 1 out of 40 compared to 1 out of 7 previously. So the smallpox epidemic, they said, wiped out 844 people, over 14% of the population. So in 1796, Edward Jenner developed an effective vaccine that was used from cowpox to provoke smallpox immunity. It worked. Eventually, smallpox vaccination became mandatory in Massachusetts. So that's good, right? Great story. So they say, well, did Onesimus live to see the success of this technique that he introduced to Mather? They don't know. They're saying that he think that he partially purchased his freedom, but they're not really sure. All they know is clear that the knowledge that he passed on saved hundreds of lives. One more again, what is clear is that the knowledge that this African West Indian man passed over to them in 1716, over 300 years ago, saved hundreds of lives and led to eventually the eradication of smallpox. So in 1980, the World Health Organization declared smallpox entirely eradicated due to the spread of immunization worldwide. It remains the only infectious disease to have been entirely wiped out. I'm going to say that one more again. It remains the only infectious disease to have been entirely wiped out. Now that's wonderful news. Don't make you proud to know that our people, one of our people, did this to save hundreds, thousands, millions, I guess, of people. I don't know how. I mean, smallpox back then, but it's gone. Wait, that's why that's wonderful news. It makes you proud, and I think this is some news that should be spread and should be one of those Black History moments. And I'm so happy that I was able to bring this story of this enslaved person, Mr. Um, Onesimus, to you tonight to show you the powerful, the smart, the resilience of our people. So I hope this was valuable. Drop a V. I hope you give me a big V this evening to bring the story. I'm just happy to bring the story. And I'm happy to bring many, many more stories to you this month from Black History Month. So let me see if I have I do have Instagram. Let me see if any Instagram have me say, okay. All right. Let's see. Great evening. Amazing job. Black History Month. Thank you. Value. Value. Well, yours welcome is an honor. So interesting. Wow. Value. Thank you. I'm so happy that you gave value tonight. Thank you for that. I'm so glad that I brought value tonight, that this African American honey saved all these people. And I'm glad somebody listened to him. Okay. So that's all I have for you tonight. If you have any other subjects you want me to talk about, so every night I'm going to drop in some interesting Black history facts. And I hope you enjoy it. And I'll be back tomorrow, all things being equal, God willing. And goodbye for now. And I see you tomorrow. Thank you. I love you. There's nothing you can do about it. Goodbye.